Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go over something historically, and it's only because someone recently inquired about something from me, and I can tell this person really did not know. And the sad part is, this person is close to my age. Ladies and gentlemen, they had all kinds of things in this country: anti-miscegenation laws. They had the one drop rule, which was heavily enforced in this country, by the way, and it still is. A lot of people don't realize that one drop rule never went anywhere. It is still heavily used even to this day. This of what you're looking at is an old Virginia birth certificate, and this is by far, it is far from the only one with this kind of wording on it, especially if you got family members up in age. They may have this sort of writing on their birth certificate, and you got to look at the fine print down at the bottom. A white person is one with no trace whatever of blood of another race, except that one with 1/16 of the blood of American Indian, unmixed with other race, may be classified as white. The date of birth may be omitted if desired. All right. So on the other side, it says, I hereby affirm that I believe the statements as the color of parents on the other side of this card are correct, and that I am signing this with the knowledge that the penalty for making a false statement as to color is 1 year in the penitentiary. That is how heavy they enforced that one drop rule, ladies and gentlemen. Virginia is one of many states in this country that had that wording on birth certificates. You know, this is why the history, they don't want to teach you history, because then you know how deep this stuff really went. So in the United States, the one drop rule, also known as the hypo descent, it dates to 1662. Virginia law on the treatment of mixed race individuals. The legal notion that hypo descent has been upheld as recently as 1985. Did y'all know that? When a Louisiana court ruled that a woman with a black great 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 grandmother could not identify herself as white on her passport. 1985. So, ladies and gentlemen, all of this information is still out there. Anybody can look it up. You really can. So, when you are asking, why don't a biracial person just claim white? Because the laws were against it. That's why it was against the law for them to claim to be white 100, 200 years back. And they really don't let them claim it even to this day. Some of y'all believe they do. They don't. They don't embrace them. I mean, even some of the police shootings over the years have been biracials also. because they don't claim them even to this very day. They can't just claim to be white. They can't. It would never be embraced. Okay, so now another thing, there were the laws in America, what they called anti-miscegenation laws. Now, I'm showing you this map so you can see in 1913. Now, the anti-miscegenation laws started way before this time period, but I want you to see this map of what it looked like in the country. Now, I know a lot of us hear about Virginia. Oh, you couldn't go to Virginia if you were a couple, a white man, black woman, or a black woman, white man. You could not, um, I'm sorry, a black man and a white woman. You couldn't get married in Virginia. Now, this is what it was, that was told to me when I was coming up. They almost tried to make you believe it was allowed everywhere except for Virginia. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. I knew that couldn't be true with just a whole, history. I knew that couldn't be true. Here is a map of 1913 in the country. It was most of the country. This was most of the country. So, miscegenation, the word comes from Latin, for mixed. And the United States made it illegal for intermarriage between racial groups. And this went on for a long time. So, interracial marriage did not become legal in most of the states in the country until 1967. Loving versus Virginia. Okay. So many states, of course, went ahead and they just started legalizing interracial marriage. All right. So there were anti-miscegenation laws, y'all, in Alaska, Connecticut, Hawaii, Minnesota, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Vermont, and Wisconsin. Now, there were places that had anti-miscegenation laws going back to the 1800s. Illinois, 1874. Iowa, 1851. Kansas, 1859. Maine, 1883. Michigan, 1883. Massachusetts, 1843. New Mexico, 1866. Ohio, 1887. Pennsylvania, 1780. Rhode Island, 1881. All right. And the laws were repealed, okay, where it didn't matter what your background was. Arizona repealed their anti-miscegenation laws in 1962. California, 1948. Colorado, 1957. Idaho, 1959. Indiana, 1965. Maryland, 1967. Montana, 1953. Nebraska, 1963. Nevada, 1959. North Dakota, 1955. Oregon, 1951. South Dakota, 1957. Utah, 1963, and Wyoming, 1965. Okay. So it wasn't until those dates where the anti-miscegenation laws were repealed in the 14 states that I just gave you. And, this included people could marry regardless to what their race were, even if they were marrying somebody of a different race. So you may ask, why didn't biracials choose white? Is because legally they weren't allowed to do it. With the one drop rule, the miscegenation laws, they were not allowed to claim it. All right. Because some of y'all act like, and it's not you, the person just didn't know. So I also want to go to this next case because the same person told me something and it kind of took me back, but I realized maybe a lot of people don't know this. So let's move on. And oh, there's one more thing I want to show you before we even get to that point. Okay, so this is a marriage license, an application for a marriage license in Virginia. Now, if you look down at the bottom, you weren't allowed to get married if you were a couple that was of mixed race, or you were married, you were a white person and you wanted to marry somebody that was biracial. You would never have been able to do it in Virginia. It was one of many states. And if you see here, you must be able to classify yourself as a white person under Chapter 371, Acts of 1924 Assembly, is one with no trace whatsoever of colored blood. That was on the marriage license. So a lot of these couples that been married for years and years and years, and they were in these states when they had anti-miscegenation laws on the books, this kind of language would have been written on their marriage license. All right. Okay. Now, when you look at this man, to a lot of people, he looks like a white man, right? This is Homer Plessy, y'all. Homer Plessy. You heard of the case Homer Plessy was Plessy versus Ferguson. He was the plaintiff on that case. Plessy versus Ferguson. And if you don't know how this story goes, then let me explain it to you, because I don't think a lot of people, unfortunately, education is so lackadaisical in America. This is why so many people don't know. Now, the same person thought Plessy was a black man, like a full black man. And I said, no, you have to go back and look at this, still considered a landmark case. Plessy looked like a full white man. Well, he was actually 1/8 black. He had a great grandmother that was a black woman. And how did this all started? So Plessy versus Ferguson was a landmark case back in 1896. This is when the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of racial segregation under the separate but equal doctrine. The case stemmed from an 1892 incident in which a black passenger, Homer Plessy, Don't look black, does he? Definitely could pass. Refused to sit in the car on this train for black people. He wouldn't sit there. Rejecting Plessy's argument, he said that his constitutional rights were violated. So the Supreme Court ruled that a law that implies merely the legal distinction between white people and black people was not unconstitutional. So, as a result, the restrictive Jim Crow legislation and separate public accommodations based on race became commonplace. He lost. He lost. Mm-mm-mm. So even a black man, because of the one drop rule, he was looked upon as a black man. And although he looks clearly, when you see pictures of him, like a white man, he lost his case. He can't claim he's white. And that's how the court saw it. You got black blood in you, you can't claim you're white. You're still a black man in their eyes. So make sure our children know the history. This is why it's really, really important that they know and know the truth. So, the moral of this story, if you think the one drop rule is gone, it never went anywhere. It never left. Just let me know what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.